What's up guys, welcome to Monchkinz Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Monchkinz logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and welcome to my video guide for the Sanctuary Keeper raid event. And before we do start, again, like and subscribe if you haven't already. It does help my channel and I really do appreciate all the support that you guys give me. So without further ado, let's start this video. Now, as always, we'll start this off with the boss's abilities, weaknesses, resistances, and the elements that it can absorb. I'm only going to be covering the Sanctuary Keeper here because the Sanctuary Keeper that we are facing has a slight difference from the previous Sanctuary Keeper that we faced previously in the, I believe it was in the story event. So it doesn't have any weaknesses or resistances, at least for this one, and it can absorb 3 elements, which are the fire, ice, and holy elements. As for its abilities, it has a recast ability called Photon Wings, which basically recovers itself from its break status and will reduce all the enemies' brave based on the target's max HP. And this will increase the brave by the target's reduced brave as well, and this will do a group magic HP attack. And this is the kicker for this one. It is going to be a guaranteed hit, and it also increases its brave by the HP damage dealt. This will also inflict the stop and blind debuff. Next up is its normal brave attack, which is going to be a melee brave attack, gore, which is a melee HP attack, tail sweep, which is a melee brave attack. This also inflicts a poison and sap debuff as well. Next up is Mana Breath, which is a group magic brave attack, which also inflicts a defense down debuff. Up next is Curaga, which basically will restore its own HP and will grant itself an HP regen buff to itself. Next, Verse Shot, which is a magic brave attack, which also inflicts break, which is guaranteed despite you dodging that attack. And this also has a plus variant, which just increases its brave further. Next, a couple of texts that you will see, which are Power Increase, which basically raises all its stats, and Power Further Increase, which further raises all its stats. Now, the Jet Mannequin, as I mentioned before, is just going to be using all of Jet's skills apart from his EX. So be very careful with this one. There are a few ways to go around this Jet Mannequin, and the main thing to worry about is Jet Slash, which it can actually trigger it twice if you're not too careful if you do get broken. So just be careful with that one. Okay guys, now let's move on to the general tips and guide. The first one is going to be just go all out on this fight. This is a one-wave fight, so go all out. You can use a few HP attacks here and there if you are struggling a little bit with your ability count, but for the most part, just go all out. It's gonna be a one hell of a long fight if you actually don't use any I should say if you don't use any delay tactic. This might be a long fight. Next is bring in the boosted characters. We have 6 for this one, which are Cypher, Lenna, Fang, Ace, Fares, or Realm. Other characters that you may want to consider are Galuf, Lightning, Shadow, Tifa, Vayne, Edge, Waka, Ramza, Yuffie, Golbez, Balthier, Fran, Jack, Arnea, Sephiroth, General Leo, Noctis, Sync, Zack, or Cloud. Now, just a couple of things with a couple of the characters here. For example, like Edge with his party dodge, it's not going to work on Photo Wings, unfortunately. It will still work with all of the other abilities apart from that one. And even if you do dodge, like I mentioned before, Verse Shot and the plus variant will still break that character, so even if they dodge that. So dodge is a little bit unreliable for the most part. The same thing can be said for Galuf. If you do plan to bring Snow, I didn't put him there, but you can definitely bring him. You just have to make sure not to use Frost Strike on the Sanctuary Keeper. You can use it against the Jet Mannequin for the most part. So yeah, just a couple of things there. And Zack, unfortunately, with his shield, if he does get broken, it does go away as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't used Zack for a while, and I actually didn't use him here, but from what I can gather, if he does get broken, that shield does go away. So let me know if I'm wrong down in the comments below. Now for healers plus brave battery options, of course you have Selfie, Ignis, Aerith, Rosa, Penelo, Hope, or Ishtola. And as for the summon, unfortunately I can't bring my favorite summon Shiva, but I opt out to bring brothers instead. But you can bring Ramu, Leviathan, or the Pandemonium for your summon. Now you can honestly bring Diabolus as well, but I really wouldn't recommend it because the bosses don't actually have any particular weaknesses unless you imperil them. So yeah, that's just my thing. I would probably go to the next best thing, which for me the summon is going to be brothers. Okay guys, let's move on to the general strategies that I use that help me clear this fight and hopefully will help you as well. The first one, let's talk about the friend support. Honestly, bring Aranea for your support, probably the best one since she does the most damage with Splash. Setzer, if you want to play a little bit safe, you can use that freeze debuff so you don't get any HP damage dealt against you. He can also delay, and of course he can actually be a very good brave battery option as well. Something to mention is the mannequin jet actually is pretty easy to launch, so if you can combine your friend Setzer with his prismatic flash alongside with the right turn order, and you can launch that and do massive damage on the mannequin. But for the most part, I'd say just try and concentrate on the Sanctuary Keeper. Now the next one is going to be, again, your delay, paralysis, and freeze are going to be your best friend. Honestly, if you are planning to use a delay tactic, you can basically delay the Sanctuary Keeper boss all the way down to so it wouldn't really bother you even with its HP regen. Now it will heal once, however if you can delay it like to the ends of the turn order, then you wouldn't have to worry about it actually getting any HP back. So that's one way to deal with the Sanctuary Keeper boss. Next up, if you don't plan to use the delay tactic, I highly recommend bringing a debuffer or a dispeller to get rid of that HP regen buff. It is going to be really painful for that Sanctuary Keeper to actually keep using Curaga every, I would say, 4 or 5 turns. I'm not really entirely sure how often it uses that, but when it does, it heals for a lot and you gotta get rid of that HP regen once again. Now next is to bring in a healer and of course a tank. Now for the healer, you're gonna need it to heal through some of that HP damage that the boss will definitely deal against you, especially with, you know, using its photon wings. It's a guaranteed HP hit, so I highly advise to bring a healer. Now but if you are bringing a healer, I'd suggest it's someone that can actually protect you from debuffs as well, like Selfie, Lenna, or even Ignis. Those are the only options, I do believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. As for this tank, I highly recommend Galuf here because Galuf basically makes sure that the jet mannequin doesn't bother you at all, since he can cover and counter at the same time. Now you can argue you can bring, like, you know, someone like Snow, Zac, or Warrior of Light. They can work pretty well as well. The thing with Zac again is if he does get broken, I do believe that shield goes away, and with Warrior of Light it doesn't really protect you from HP damage. However, he does protect you from some of those brave damage that Jet can do. So in my honest opinion, Galuf is the way to go. Now the final thing I have for you guys is when it's about to use the Photon Wings recast ability, you can dump all your Brave on your HP attack. Basically, it won't break you because it doesn't do any Brave damage at all. All it does is basically will reduce all your Brave down depending on its max HP, and then increases its Brave once again from all the reduced Brave that it basically did on you. So I would highly recommend just dumping all your HP attack, your Brave on HP attacks, unless of course Jet goes for the next turn and you get broken, whatever the case may be. But just take a look at your turn order just to be careful as well. Alright guys, it's time to move on to the possible party compositions for this particular fight. Of course we have 6 boosted characters. I opted out to pick Cypher, Lenna, and of course Faris with an RNA support and Brothers for the summon. Cypher for the damage and debuffs, Lenna for the battery and heals, and Faris just to you have someone to remove that HP regen, which is very annoying. So you can kind of like play around with the boosted team, so as long as you have a healer and a debuffer, I think you should be fine. Ace is like probably the biggest damage dealer, however he might run out of gas pretty quickly, just something to note. Next up is Galuf, Selfie, and Lightning, as you guys can see in this video, with an RNA support and Brothers for the summon. Galuf, just make sure that Jet is basically useless because of his cover and counter. Selfie for the debuff protection, it's not 100%, but it's there. She can also heal, and of course make sure that Lightning's EX ability recovers pretty quickly as well. So Lightning's there for more damage and of course delay as well. Now for the next team, I have Zac, Penelo, Yuffie, and with an RNA support and Brothers for your summon. Zac is basically here for the tanking, and of course Penelo for the batteries and heals. You do have to wait for those HP regen heals, so yeah, it can be a little bit tricky since the boss likes to, once it goes down to like red health, it will try and keep using like its photon wings. It recovers its I should say its recast ability pretty quickly, but one way to counter this is to actually throw back that stop debuff that it applies on you, and basically it stops itself from recovering that recast ability. So that's what Yuffie is here for, and yeah, it's a pretty funny way to go around this mechanic, and it's pretty, yeah, I'd say it's probably the most, I wouldn't say unique, but the most fun way to deal with that recast ability. Now for the final team is of course going to be your delay team, basically with Ishtola, RNA and Lightning, RNA support, and Brothers for summon. And yeah, just delay guys, it shouldn't cause you any problem. Alright guys, so we're finally at the end of this video, and of course I'll give you guys my final thoughts on this fight. But before I do, a little bit of a story of what happened with me on this fight. So I opted out to bring Galuf, Lenna, and I do believe Ace as well in my party composition. And I had an RNA friend as well. So what happened with me was I was nearly about to kill it, and then I noticed that I wasn't meeting the HP requirement. And what happened was my friend RNA actually got hit by the photon wings. And the thing was, I actually switched out Lenna for that friend RNA and didn't have a way to heal that RNA. So in the end, when I was about to kill it, I had to have all 3 of my party members basically at full health. No, it wasn't Ace, it was Faris. I apologies. So basically I had to have all 3 of those characters at max health before I can meet the HP requirement. So what ended up happening was an endless cycle of photon wings, me trying to heal back whatever I can, and eventually it became a stalemate between us, and I noticed that, you know, I'm running out of the Winddrake buff to heal me through, so I needed to kill it. And I did, but I didn't get the HP requirement. So I ended up deleting that video because I wanted to show a much cleaner run and of course, you know, for me to get all the mission requirements on this video as well. So yeah, that's the story of that one, and I gotta say, that's the end of the story time. I gotta say, for this fight, if you don't plan on using delay tactic, this can be a very long fight, and the reason being is that Curaga and that HP regen. Even if, for example, you remove that, let's say with Faris or Balfir, eventually though, it'll have another turn where it will actually use Curaga again, which heals it for a lot, and having that HP regen back again. So yeah, this can be a very tedious fight, I would say. I wouldn't say it's hard, it's just very tedious, and prepare for a long fight if you don't plan on delaying the Sanctuary Keeper until the end of the turn, like, you know, the turn orders, and make sure it doesn't use Curaga again. So yeah, that's all I have to say for this fight. I wouldn't say it's completely hard, it's just tedious. Anyway, I'll end the video right here, guys. Please do remember to click like and subscribe if you haven't already. You know, it does help my channel, and of course I really do appreciate all the support that you guys give me. It also helps with the YouTube algorithm, and hit that bell button as well if you do decide to subscribe, because if you don't want to miss any videos on my channel, you gotta make sure that notification is on. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and on Facebook as well at Monchkinz Gaming. Leave down in the comments below which team you use to beat this fight. Let me know if there's any interesting ones. Actually, I know there's going to be quite a few different ways to deal with this. And oh yeah, I guess I'll put this in the medium difficulty in terms of chaos difficulty fight, just because it's tedious. Maybe somewhere between easy and medium. So yeah, that's it for me. This is Monchkinz logging off. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next level.